The IT. Welcome to Derry Episode 8 trailer doesn't waste any time in grabbing our attention. The moment it starts, we're thrown back into the eerie atmosphere of the town, with fog creeping through the streets, setting the stage for the horror that's about to unfold. We see brief glimpses of familiar locations, like the old town square and the rundown places where the kids once played, but there's a noticeable change. The streets feel emptier, colder, as if the town itself has become a character in its own right, harboring its own secrets. What stands out right away is the unsettling sound design. We don't just hear the wind. It's a whispering, almost pleading sound, as if the very air in Derry is trying to tell us something. This is no accident. From the very start, the trailer pulls us into Derry's dark past and reminds us that no one in this town can escape the horrors that live in the shadows. The visual style is reminiscent of the first season, but there's a sharper sense of dread here. It's as if something far more dangerous is lurking beneath the surface. One of the first key shots that stands out is a glimpse of the old church, bathed in an eerie glow. The church, a place once associated with hope and safety, is now darkened and ominous, hinting that the very fabric of Derry's history is unraveling. This could be a nod to the religious undertones of the ID universe, where faith and darkness often clash. The church, once a symbol of light, now feels like a prison. This could symbolize the characters' struggle with their past, their personal demons, and the creeping fear that they can never truly escape Derry. Next, we see a quick but striking scene. A figure standing alone in the fog. Their face is obscured, but the shape and silhouette suggest that this could be someone we've seen before, possibly one of the key characters we thought were gone for good. This could be the return of an old villain, or perhaps the emergence of something even more terrifying. The trailer doesn't give us enough to be sure, but it's clear that the threat in Episode 8 is much more personal than what we've seen in previous episodes. There's a sense that this time, the evil isn't just targeting the town, it's going after those who've survived before. The atmosphere shifts once more when we see a series of quick cuts. Dark rooms, flickering lights, a child's toy, moving on its own. These moments are unsettling, not because of what we see, but because of what's implied. The camera focuses on the smallest details: a bloodstain on the floor, a shadow creeping across a wall, all of which point to something bigger, something we can't fully understand yet. This is classic ID storytelling, slowly revealing bits of the larger puzzle while keeping us on the edge of our seats, desperate to piece everything together. But it's not just the visuals that stand out, it's the pacing. The trailer is deliberately slow, allowing the tension to build with each passing second. We're not rushed into the action. Instead, we're given time to feel the weight of Derry's history, the darkness that clings to every corner. The slower pace allows the horror to sink in deeper, making each fleeting shot feel more significant. It's almost as if the town is alive, pulling us into its grip and not letting go. As we near the end of the trailer, we catch a glimpse of a figure, partially obscured, standing near the edge of the town. The figure doesn't speak, but there's a sense of power around them, a threat that's both familiar and new. This is where things get interesting. Could this be the key to understanding the real evil lurking in Derry? The trailer doesn't give us answers, but it leaves us with a chilling feeling that this person might be more important than we realize. The trailer does a fantastic job of teasing the audience, leaving us with just enough to spark our curiosity but not enough to give away the whole story. We're left with more questions than answers, but that's exactly what makes us want to see more. What is the significance of these mysterious figures? How will the characters confront the darkness that's been chasing them for so long? And, most importantly, who will survive the horrors that are about to unfold? In the next section, we'll take a deeper look at the characters who seem to be at the heart of this episode's story. Who are they? And what could their fates mean for the future of Derry? As we dive deeper into the IT, welcome to Derry Episode 8 trailer, it becomes clear that the focus is not just on the town, but on the characters who are at the center of this unfolding terror. The familiar faces from the past seem to be making a return, but this time, their paths will cross with a new generation of victims. But what does this mean for them? And how are they connected to the growing darkness that seems to have gripped Derry once again? The return of old faces. Right from the start, we can feel the presence of the old guard. There are flashes of characters we've grown attached to, and while some may appear briefly, their return is no less significant. We catch sight of one of the survivors, looking older and burdened by the weight of their past. Their eyes are tired, haunted, suggesting that the memories of their encounters with it still linger, despite years having passed. Their return might not be voluntary. In fact, it seems like they've been drawn back to Derry, as if the town has never truly let them go. This returning character is likely to serve as a guide for the younger generation that will face off against whatever new evil is haunting Derry. The trailer hints at their internal conflict, torn between the trauma of their past and the desperate need to protect the new victims. What's intriguing is the fear in their eyes. They may have defeated it once, but they know it's never really gone. The town's history has a way of repeating itself, and this time, the stakes feel even higher. The moment they step back into the cursed town, they may unknowingly set in motion a series of events that will force them to confront their darkest fears once more. A new generation, fresh faces in a familiar town. However, Welcome to Derry isn't just about the survivors of the past. The trailer teases us with glimpses of new characters, fresh faces who are now forced to deal with the same horrors that have haunted the older generation. These young individuals bring a fresh dynamic to the story, but their connection to the supernatural world of Derry is still unclear. One of the most intriguing new characters in the trailer is a young boy seen walking alone in the mist. His face is tense, filled with a sense of dread as he walks the empty streets of Derry. There's a moment where his gaze shifts to something we can't see, a shadow moving just beyond his line of sight, perhaps the manifestation of his growing terror. This child might represent the new generation of victims, the ones who have no idea what kind of evil lurks beneath Derry's surface. His innocence makes him all the more vulnerable to the horrors that will inevitably unfold. What's striking about this new batch of characters is their apparent lack of awareness. The older generation, with their scars and memories, knows all too well what lurks in the shadows. But these new kids, they're entering Derry blindfolded, unaware of the forces they're about to face. This gap in knowledge is important as it suggests that the adults will have to step in once again, serving as protectors for those who are too young to understand the true nature of the town. The town itself seems to have a particular interest in these new characters, as if it is feeding off their fear and desperation. As they explore the decaying streets, they unknowingly unlock the dormant forces that were waiting for them to arrive. The trailer emphasizes the fragile connection these new kids have with the supernatural elements of Derry, suggesting that they may become key players in the upcoming battle between light and dark, the connection between the old and new. As the trailer progresses, we start to see more interactions between the old survivors and the new generation. A sense of mentorship and responsibility weighs heavily on the shoulders of the older characters. These are people who have been through hell and back, yet now they must find the courage to once again confront their fears in order to protect the younger characters. There's a powerful scene where an older character looks directly at one of the new children, a mixture of fear and resolve in their eyes. This is not just a moment of passing the torch, it's a recognition that the cycle is repeating itself, and the responsibility to stop the evil once and for all lies with them. They know what they're up against, and they understand that the new generation will have to face it too. But the question remains, are the old survivors strong enough to lead the charge once again, or will their past haunt them one final time? The dynamics between the older and younger characters are crucial, as they highlight the emotional weight of the story. There's a sense of shared trauma, a bond forged in the darkness of Derry's past. But there's also a rising tension. Can the older characters really protect the kids? Or will their own fears and weaknesses resurface at the most critical moment? The mysterious figure, a new player in the game. Another significant part of the trailer revolves around a mysterious new character who appears to be central to the plot of Episode 8. This person, whose face remains hidden for most of the trailer, seems to be one of the key figures who will challenge the old and new characters alike. Whether this figure is a villain, a manifestation of Derry's evil, or something else entirely is still unclear. What we do know is that their presence signals a major shift in the narrative. The camera lingers on this figure for a few seconds longer than usual, suggesting they may play a pivotal role in the unfolding events. Their movements are slow, deliberate, and every step seems to reverberate with purpose. As the trailer cuts between this figure and the terrified expressions of the characters, it becomes clear that this new player could either be the final piece in the puzzle of Derry's evil or an entirely new force that has yet to be fully understood. Could this figure be a return of Pennywise? Or is it a different kind of malevolent force entirely? The uncertainty surrounding this character adds a sense of urgency to the narrative. As the older generation struggles with their past, and the new characters begin to realize the dangers they're up against, this mysterious figure seems poised to tip the balance in Derry's ongoing battle between light and dark. The emotional journey of the characters, the emotional core of IT. Welcome to Derry Episode 8 will lie in the journeys of these characters. For the older characters, it's about confronting their fears and finding the strength to fight once again. For the new generation, it's a heartbreaking process of learning about the terrifying history of Derry and realizing that their town's true horrors are far from over. As the trailer suggests, the characters will have to face their pasts and confront the very things they've tried to forget. Whether it's a returning villain, the town itself, or their own personal demons, the characters will need to find a way to come together. Because in Derry, no one can stand alone. The darkness thrives on isolation. And only by facing their fears together will they stand a chance at surviving. In the next section, we'll explore the deeper mysteries of Derry's past, focusing on the dark forces that have shaped the town and how these forces may come into play in Episode 8. As we continue to dissect the IT. Welcome to Derry Episode 8 trailer. One thing becomes abundantly clear: Derry itself is not just a town. It is a living, breathing entity, deeply connected to the horrors that unfold within its boundaries. Throughout the series, we've seen glimpses of the town's tortured history, a history that seems to repeat itself, each generation falling victim to the same terrifying force. But what lies beneath the surface of this cursed town? What is the true nature of the evil that haunts Derry? And how does it continue to shape the events of Welcome to Derry? Let's break it down. The town itself, a prison of fear. Derry, as we've seen, is far more than just a setting. It is a character in its own right, with a personality and a dark, malevolent force that clings to every inch of it. From the start of the trailer, we can sense that Derry has not been kind to those who try to escape it. The streets, once familiar, are now shrouded in fog, as if hiding something that doesn't want to be found. The quiet, eerie atmosphere suggests that the town itself is trapping its inhabitants, pulling them back into its dark embrace no matter how far they run. One of the most unsettling elements of the trailer is the subtle use of the town's architecture and streets to create an oppressive sense of dread. As the camera pans through Derry, we notice that the buildings seem to loom over the characters, casting long, distorted shadows. There's a feeling of claustrophobia, as if the walls themselves are closing in. The old, decaying structures that were once symbols of safety and community now appear as if they're collapsing in on themselves, mirroring the emotional breakdown of the characters who have to face the town's dark past once more. Derry is a town that does not forget. Its very foundation seems to be built on violence, fear, and death, and this energy has seeped into every aspect of its existence. This isn't just about the supernatural horrors that reside here, but the deep-rooted history of abuse, fear, and death that has shaped every corner. The constant return of evil forces in different forms is a reflection of the cyclical nature of violence in Derry. This isn't just a town. It's a prison for the soul, a place where the worst memories are trapped, never to be freed. The trailer hints that the town itself may hold secrets that even the survivors aren't fully aware of. We catch glimpses of old historical landmarks, forgotten places that seem to have been untouched by time but are still haunted by the same sinister presence. The dark underground passages, the long-forgotten cemeteries, and the abandoned buildings are not just relics of Derry's past. They're hiding places for the evil that still festers in the town. And as the trailer progresses, it becomes clear that these forgotten places will play a critical role in the unraveling of the mystery, the force behind the darkness, a new entity, or the return of it. At the heart of the ID franchise lies a malevolent entity that feeds on fear. Pennywise, the shape-shifting, nightmarish creature that has terrorized Derry for generations, is always lurking in the background, even when we don't see him. But in episode 8, we're left questioning whether this is truly it or whether something else has awakened in Derry. Something even darker than Pennywise himself. The trailer teases a new presence. A shadowy figure that doesn't quite fit the mold of Pennywise, but still carries the same malevolent energy. This figure is introduced in the midst of eerie flashes, its form barely recognizable. It doesn't speak, but there's a palpable sense of power around it. Something ancient and unsettling. Unlike Pennywise, who thrived on fear and manipulation, this new figure seems more direct, more primal. There's a coldness to its presence, as if it's not bound by the same rules that governed the previous evils in Derry. The sense of inevitability around this figure suggests that it's something far more dangerous, something the characters will need to face head-on. Could this be a new entity born of Derry's cursed history? The trailer doesn't provide enough details to confirm, but there are hints that this figure could be a manifestation of Derry's collective suffering, a force that has been waiting in the shadows for the right moment to reveal itself. It might not be a person, but rather a manifestation of the town's pain, its violence, and the endless cycle of terror that has plagued it for so long. On the other hand, there's always the possibility that this new figure is a different aspect of it itself. Pennywise, we know, is not just a clown. He's a shape-shifting, malevolent force that can take on any form. Is it possible that we're seeing another manifestation of Pennywise's evil, one that's evolved beyond the form we recognized before? The eerie silence that surrounds this new figure could be a sign of the entity's deeper power, something far more subtle, but no less terrifying. Whatever it is, the trailer makes it clear that the darkness in Derry is far from over, and the entity behind it is more terrifying than ever. The rituals and cursed history secrets from the past as the trailer unfolds. We also catch glimpses of rituals and ancient symbols that seem to be key to understanding the darkness in Derry. There are brief shots of what appear to be occult markings on the walls, cryptic symbols that have been carved into the town's very infrastructure. These symbols are not just decorations. They are part of a larger, more sinister narrative that ties back to Derry's origins. The use of occult imagery suggests that the evil in Derry is not just supernatural, it has roots in ancient practices. Rituals designed to harness and control the forces of fear. These rituals seem to be tied to the town's early settlers, a group of people who may have knowingly or unknowingly awakened the forces of darkness that still plague the town today. The trailer hints at this history, showing glimpses of old manuscripts, maps, and books that all point to one disturbing fact: Derry was built on a foundation of fear, and that fear was cultivated by those who knew how to manipulate it. We see a brief shot of a ritual site, an old, overgrown area in the woods, hidden from the town's view. This place seems to be where the town's original settlers engaged in dark practices, possibly summoning the first manifestation of it. The presence of these rituals in the trailer suggests that whatever evil is present in Derry is not just a random occurrence, it is the result of deliberate acts of cruelty, fear, and manipulation. This dark history is not something the town can simply outrun. It is embedded in the very soil of Derry, and it will continue to resurface every time the town believes it has escaped. The cycle of fear, how it all comes back. One of the most disturbing aspects of Derry's darkness is how it continuously feeds on fear, creating an endless cycle that repeats itself every few decades. The events in the trailer, the return of familiar faces, the rise of new horrors seem to be part of this unbreakable cycle. The trailer teases us with the idea that no matter how many times the evil in Derry is defeated, it always returns, more powerful than before. This cyclical nature of fear is what makes Derry such a unique place in horror fiction. Unlike other haunted towns, where the evil might be contained or destroyed, Derry's darkness is eternal, feeding on the fear of its inhabitants. As the trailer hints, this evil is tied to the very essence of the town, a force that cannot be easily destroyed. No matter how many generations of survivors come and go, the cycle will continue, ensuring that Derry's curse lives on. The trailer leaves us with one chilling thought. Can anyone ever truly escape Derry? Or is the town's darkness destined to claim new victims, year after year, as long as the cycle of fear remains unbroken? In the next section, we'll delve into the fan theories surrounding Episode 8, exploring what might happen next based on the clues we've uncovered so far. But one thing is certain: whatever happens, the terror in Derry is far from over. After breaking down the haunting visuals, the characters at the center of this new chapter, and the dark forces that continue to torment Derry, we're left with one critical question. What does all this mean for Episode 8? The trailer has given us just enough to spark our curiosity, but there's still so much left unexplained. With all the clues we've gathered, it's time to dig into some of the most compelling fan theories and predictions about what might unfold in the next episode. Theory 1. The return of Pennywise, but not as we know him. One of the most persistent fan theories revolves around the idea that it, or more specifically, Pennywise will make a return in Episode 8. However, it's likely that this time around, Pennywise will appear in a form we've never seen before. Throughout the trailer, we've been teased with glimpses of strange, otherworldly figures, some of which seem to be directly connected to the dark energy of Derry. While we haven't seen the classic clown, it's important to remember that Pennywise, as a shapeshifter, has the ability to manifest in different ways, feeding off the deepest fears of those it terrorizes. In this context, it's possible that Pennywise could return in an even more twisted form, drawing on the new generation's fears instead of the old. This shift can mark a significant evolution in the villain's character. In the first ID series, Pennywise primarily targeted the children of Derry, but as we saw in the trailers, the evil in Derry seems to have grown more complex and direct. Perhaps the newer manifestation of it will take on a form that is both familiar and unfamiliar, something that reflects the evolution of fear itself. This could mean that Pennywise's return will be far more sinister, perhaps even more intelligent and manipulative than before, targeting the characters in ways that go beyond the physical. What stands out about this theory is that it may tap into a deep-seated truth about horror. The greatest terror doesn't come from a familiar face, but from the unknown. If Pennywise does return, he may not appear as the same clown, but rather as a nightmare that continues to morph and change in response to the evolving fears of the characters. The question remains, however, how will these new forms of evil affect the psychological state of the survivors? Theory 2. A new form of evil, Derry's curse unleashed. While many fans are eager to see the return of Pennywise, others are beginning to entertain the possibility that the dark force at the heart of Welcome to Derry Episode 8 may not be it at all. In fact, there are theories circulating that a completely new and unique entity may be behind the terrifying events in this episode. This entity could be a byproduct of Derry's cursed history, a being that has been waiting in the shadows for the right moment to emerge. This theory hinges on the idea that Derry's deep, dark history has birthed multiple horrors throughout the years. While it, or Pennywise, has been the main antagonist in the past, the town's cyclical nature of violence and fear might have spawned other supernatural entities. Some fans speculate that Episode 8 could introduce an entirely new villain, one that has been lying dormant in Derry for centuries, only now waking up because the town is ripe with fear and chaos. This new evil could be tied to the ancient rituals and symbols seen in the trailer, perhaps a manifestation of the first settlers' attempts to control supernatural forces they didn't understand. If this theory holds, it could mean that the entity terrorizing the characters in Episode 8 is far more ancient and powerful than anything they've ever encountered before. This new creature may not simply be a figment of Derry's collective fear, but a physical manifestation of the town's darkest secrets, lurking in the spaces between time and reality. It could be something that was born from Derry itself, a force that thrives on the ongoing violence and corruption within the town's history. This would not only add a new layer of horror to the series, but it would also shift the narrative in a direction that makes Derry itself the true antagonist, rather than just a backdrop for the evil that exists within it. Theory 3. The survivors will face a test of sacrifice. Another compelling theory circulating among fans revolves around the idea that the survivors, those who have faced it before, will have to make a monumental sacrifice in order to finally break the cycle of horror. In the trailer, we see hints of personal struggles, deep emotional scars, and the heavy burden of past trauma carried by the older generation of characters. It's clear that the emotional weight of their past experiences is still very much alive within them, and the trailer suggests that these survivors will be forced to confront the very things they've tried to escape. This theory predicts that Episode 8 will not only be about defeating the evil in Derry, but also about confronting the emotional and psychological toll that the town has left on these characters. What if the only way to finally stop the cycle of terror is for these survivors to make the ultimate sacrifice? Perhaps it won't just be about fighting an external force. It could also involve facing the deep internal struggles that have haunted them for years. One possibility is that one or more of the survivors may have to give up something incredibly precious, maybe even their own life, in order to stop the evil once and for all. This sacrifice could symbolize a deeper theme in the story: the idea that evil can only be defeated when the past is truly let go. The emotional resonance of such a sacrifice would make for a deeply impactful moment, not just for the characters, but for the audience as well. Theory 4. Derry's end of final reckoning. Perhaps the most ominous and bold theory comes from fans who believe that Episode 8 will be the beginning of the end for Derry itself. This theory suggests that the events of the episode will culminate in the destruction of Derry once and for all. We've seen in previous idea iterations that the town is a character unto itself, feeding off the darkness and fear that it perpetuates. However, some fans are starting to believe that the time has come for Derry to be eradicated entirely. Could Episode 8 be the final battle for the town? It would make sense within the larger framework of the ID universe. If Derry's dark history is truly as ancient and pervasive as we've been led to believe, the characters may find themselves facing not only the evil that resides in the town, but also the realization that the town itself is too corrupted to save. The ending could signal a dramatic, final reckoning where Derry is destroyed in an effort to wipe out the evil that has been festering there for centuries. The trailer has already hinted at the possibility of great destruction, with scenes of chaotic conflict and the characters desperately trying to hold on to their sanity. Perhaps Episode 8 will see the town's crumbling legacy finally come to a head, resulting in the ultimate sacrifice to save the future generation. This could involve a literal or metaphorical destruction of Derry itself, whether through fire, flood, or some other supernatural means. It would mark the end of a cycle that has perpetuated itself for far too long, offering a bittersweet closure to the long-running story. Predictions for the ending. What will we learn? As we move closer to Episode 8, the trailer leaves us with more questions than answers. Will we finally learn the true origin of Derry's curse? Is there a way for the town to be saved, or will it be destroyed for good? And most importantly, who will survive the horrors that are about to unfold? Theories abound, but what's clear is that whatever happens, Episode 8 promises to be a turning point in the IT Welcome to Derry series. Whether we see the return of Pennywise, the rise of a new entity, or the destruction of Derry itself, one thing is certain: the story is building to something monumental, and as the trailer suggests, the town of Derry will never be the same again. What do you think will happen? Are these theories close to the mark, or are there twists yet to be uncovered? Let us know your thoughts and predictions in the comments below, because one thing is for sure: Episode 8 is going to be a wild ride.